Hey, it's Drybear. Today I'd like to ask and answer one simple question, that is, should you be excited about upcoming game Dark and Darker? We'll dive into what the game is, how it's played, and what's cool about it. As always, if you have any questions or comments for me, you'll find me live every day on twitch.tv/Drybear. Come say hi. Let's jump into it. Dark and Darker is developed by Iron Mace Games. It is a studio based in Korea from video game developer veterans that wanted to kind of get back to basics. They had worked in different places and look at the pedigree of every single person at the studio, but that's kind of the gist of it. It is a lower budget game that's more focused on kind of old school fun. So what is Dark and Darker? It is at its core a first-person fantasy-style combat game. The combat is similar to games like Chivalry or the old Might and Magic. You're in first person, you have spells, you have daggers, you have swords, and you fight in first person, and there's long locked animations where you swing into combat and you can block and dive and you can use angled slices and things like that. You'll dive into these dungeons and you'll look for loot, and pretty cool idea, but it's a slight variation on this kind of dungeon combat. It uses more of the Escape from Tarkov loot system, where you enter instance runs with a starter set of items that you choose to bring. Then you loot that run and try to get as much loot as you can. And then at the end, a portal will appear that you can escape with whatever you've got. You take your spoils to vendors in the main menu. You sell them to get gold, and then you can buy consumables or better gear or all kinds of upgrades that may be beneficial to you. So that's the idea, is that you're gearing up, picking a class and jumping into the game, trying to get as much loot as you can. The trick here is that the enemies are all out to get you, they're all out to take you out, and there are also other players. So not only is it PvE, but it's PvP. And as you're fighting these enemies, you make plenty of noise, you make all kinds of notifications, plus light for where you are, so other players can come and hunt you. So it creates this very dark and darker style, aesthetic, and atmosphere where you dive in, try to get the best loot that you can, but your life is at risk every second that you're in that dungeon. To keep the runs paced, they do have the circle mechanic from Battle Royales, where you have a circle that collapses in and forces people to come in. This is just a time-limited mechanic. I don't think it functions specifically like Battle Royales, though it does kind of have that same loot and run and fight mechanic to it, but it is much slower and much more engaging. There is a class-based system in the game, so you'll be able to select from, at least in this playtest phase, there were 6 classes, a barbarian, a fighter that can use any weapon, there's a ranger, a thief or a rogue that can go stealth and use daggers, there is a spellcaster, which is the wizard, and there's a cleric. It shouldn't come as any surprise that the abbreviation for Dark and Darker is D&D, or Dungeons and Dragons. So you have that kind of aesthetic, you have that going for it. So it creates this really fun environment where you can go in parties, you can go in solo, you're trying to get the best loot, so there's incentive to play, but there's other players as well. And it creates a lot of open styles for combat. It leads a lot of open room for the level design and layout as well. There are some levels that have high bastions on either side of the arena that allow, the ranger and the wizard to shoot from a distance. And these torches that you're seeing can be interacted with and turned off. So if you're playing like a thief or you have an invisibility potion, you can darken the room, go hide, and bait out a player to come in and get the loot. While you're looting, it does have that tension that a BR would have, where you're trying to quickly get the loot done. And when you're opening doors, you might be pressured by enemies. I think there's a lot of really cool options that they can put in for unique enemies. There is a boss in the game. It kind of creates that really fun style combat. It's also very sociable. So you can jump in with your friends, or you can try and ruin the day of other people that are playing it. If you're looking to play the game, they just completed a playtest phase over Christmas. They delayed it for Christmas and have extended that out, but it is over now if you're watching this video. The next phase that they're talking about for playtesting is going to be the week of February 6th. It was free on Steam. I'm imagining the next playtest will be free as well, and then we'll see what they end up doing monetization-wise. The company goal, or the company mission for Iron Mace Games, mentions specifically how corporate game companies sell their soul for the easy payday. They're coming down hard on this concept, doubling down more on exploitive practices. It's possible this is just going to be a free-to-play game, or maybe it's a single purchase. But it's interesting to me that they would take this stance on it. I'm sure a lot of people would really engage with it. Having been on both sides as a consumer and as a game developer, the reason we're seeing more and more of this is because studios just go bankrupt and close. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to monetize the game. Are they going to sell it? Is it going to be free? If it's free, what are the options inside the game? Because I feel like if you make bold claims like this, what does that mean for your monetization style? How is this going to work? But so far, the playtest was free and super, super fun. Creates a lot of really fun, interesting aspects. As they add more content to the game, it's going to be great. So wishlisted on Steam. Check it out. It is a PvE, PvP, Tarkov-style loot shooter or loot combat game that is built more on a fantasy D&D style. He died into a trap. And it's super fun. It's super cool. So keep your eye on it. I would say definitely be excited for this game. Cautiously optimistic about this kind of game. It took the internet by storm, kind of like Vampire Survivors did from an indie developer standpoint, and you can have some really cool options. And we're all eyes are on Iron Mace to see if they can put this one together and release it with shining, raining colors from above. If you enjoyed yourself today, leave a like down below. You can support me and my work on Patreon and view Patreon exclusive content, link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.